All right, Shalom. Before I begin, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Ruach Qudash. I'd like to say double honors to my teachers, the apostles, and the elders of Great Millstone, the men whom I've learned this truth from. And I'd also like to say Shalom and salutations to the elect that's out there preaching this word in truth and sincerity. All right, so I'm the Brother Shaquat from the branch of Great Millstone, Montreal, back with another lesson. And this lesson that I'm going to be getting into today, is going to be getting into, what recently occurred, and that's, the IUIC and Bishop Nathaniel, which is their head leader. What happened was they went to Kenya, right? And rocks were thrown at them in Kenya. They try to preach the gospel over there in Kenya, but that is not what the Lord requires, right? The Lord does not require us to physically travel the world and preach the gospel, right? The Lord simply, the Lord made it simple for us, right? And that's through the internet. The Lord gave us the internet to make it easier for us to reach these different places around the world, to get the words out to the elect, right? Because the elect is scattered all around the world, man, And what we also have to understand is that the Lord has chose lowly men, men that are not high in status in terms of this world, right? So particular men don't have the resources to be traveling to these different places around the world, right? Because that was how the gospel was preached during the time of Paul, right? Even during the time of Yahweh Shai, and they physically had to travel to these different places and preach the gospel. Why? Because there was no internet, and that's why you have the different letters of Paul, these different places that he wrote the letters to, and also he physically went to, right? But we don't have to do that today because the Lord made it a lot easier for us, right? Saving on resources, saving on time by simply uploading it on the World Wide Web, So matter of fact, let's get into it. This is Psalms 19 and verse 1, because the internet is a part of biblical prophecy. The internet is not just a modern marvel of the new, this new age, but it's actually something that was prophesied about in the scriptures and mentioned because it's monumental, right? Psalms 19 and verse 1, it says, "The heavens declare the glory of the Most High Yahweh, and the firmament showeth his handiwork," right? And something that resides in the firmament is the satellites, right? These different satellites that are up there in the skies, man. Verse 2, it says, because that's how these different signals are transmitted, right? It says, verse 2, "Day unto day uttereth speech, and night unto night showeth knowledge." There's no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. Their line is gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them hath he set a tabernacle for the sun, right? So that's going into the internet, right? Because the internet is constantly available. You can access it from day on to day, right? You cannot shut down the internet. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that it could be time for you to sleep here, 12 in the morning, or 1 in the morning. But then on the other side of the world, they could just be waking up, man. It could be 8 a.m., right? But you can have access to the internet at any point in time, right? That's the point, It says, and night unto night showeth knowledge, right? Meaning you can access knowledge also at any given time, right? No matter what. Because all you have to do is hop on the World Wide Web and search for whatever question or answer to your question, man. And in this case would be questions regarding the scriptures, right? Because you also have brothers that are in great millstone camps all around the world, constantly making videos and pouring out knowledge, right? Touching on different parts of the scriptures, exhortation videos and edification videos, man, breakdowns and so on and so forth, right? But you can access that at any time, no matter where you are. And that's done through the internet, right? It says there's no speech nor language where their voice is not heard, right? Going to show you that, hey, you could be in China and you can have access to a brother's video, right? And that video even might have subtitles, right? Chinese subtitles, which, the apostle Tahar, the elder apostle Tahar, that happened to him, man. There was a video of him in China with Chinese subtitles. So showing you that you don't physically need to be in these different places around the world, like China and Kenya, but you can simply upload a video from your phone or your laptop and put it on the World Wide Web, and they could access it in these different places around the world, right? And the Spirit will have it to where they run across the videos, right? Because if you're a part of the elect, some way, somehow, you're going to be guided to find, the voice of Yahushua, right? And the voice of Yahushua is in a particular doctrine, could be heard through a particular doctrine, particular men, particular teaching, right? And that will be Great Millstone, And a lot of brothers woke up when the apostles hopped on YouTube, right? When YouTube was first up. Right? I believe it was 2007. I may be wrong. But I believe I remember the apostles mentioning that they jumped on YouTube in 2007, right? And that was after the IUIC had already been on YouTube. But YouTube, the algorithm for YouTube worked a bit differently back then, It wasn't like it was now, because the IUIC, they were charging people for breakdowns and so on and so forth. But the apostles, they just put up videos raw, and whoever caught it, right? And a lot of brothers, I believe a lot of brothers, they got drawn to the truth through the videos on YouTube, man. I'm one of those brothers, right? Because I first heard about the apostles through a YouTube video, and I just ran across it, man. You know? But at first, I didn't know what was going on, right? But I just saw a video of men with, gray hairs sitting on a bench outside, but I disregarded the video, until later on, brother Zakar put me on the actual channels, But the point being is that if you're a part of the elect, some way, somehow, you're gonna run across the teachings of Yahushua through the internet, no matter where you are, or even in person, right? So there's no need for us to physically be in these different places around the world, because the Lord gave us the internet, right? So let's go from there to the book of Jeremiah. Matter of fact, this is Job 39. And I'm going to start out verse 9. It says, will the unicorn be willing to serve thee or abide by thy crib? Right? So this unicorn here is referring to the satellites, right? The way they're formed and transmit signals. When you take a look at a picture, it looks like a horn, right? And that word unicorn literally translates to one horn. Unicorn, unicorn, right? And that's what a satellite is, right? So it's saying, will the unicorn be willing to serve thee or abide by thy crib? Right. Canst thou bind the unicorn with his band in the furrow, or will he harrow the valleys after thee? Right. So are you gonna let the satellites work for you, or in other words, the internet? Are you gonna let it work for you? Because when you go into furrow and harrowing valleys after thee, that's going into when in the ancient world they had what you call a plow machine, right? And a plower, what it would do, matter of fact, let's see. It's called, a plow, right? And what the plow would do, it would dig on the soil, right? And basically shape up the lines for you to plant the seeds, right? And modern day plows are a lot more advanced than ancient plows, right? Because modern day plows, you have tractors that are pulling it, but ancient plows, it was you and animals, a cattle, right? And you had to guide that cattle, which was hard work, man. But the point being is that the internet is the one that's basically making it easier for you to plant, because of how it's basically harrowing the valleys, right? And the furrows, because that's what's being created by a plow, furrows. Those lines for you to plant the seed, right? That's what furrows are. You see, but the internet is doing that, and all we have to do is plant. It's making it easier for us to drop the seeds, right? That's what the internet is doing. Verse 11, it says, will thou trust them because his strength is great, right? And this internet strength is great, man. To be able to reach from here to Kenya, for you to be able to upload a video and it could be accessed on the other side of the earth, that's amazing strength, right? And that's also the glory of the Most High, because the Lord allowed that technology to be advanced, ultimately for the purpose of this word being preached throughout the whole entire earth, right? It says, wilt thou trust him because his strength is great, or wilt thou leave thy labor to him? Right, and that's what we're doing when we upload the videos online. We're leaving our labor to the internet, because we don't physically have to be there, or physically write letters and send them out to a particular address and so on. All we do is just film the video and upload it online. Simple. Verse 12, wilt thou believe him? He will bring home thy seed, right, and gather it into thy barn, right, because that's what the internet does, right? That's what's gonna bring the elect home into the barn, into the house of David. That's what's gonna gather the house of David, man. It's through this word being or this net being cast all around the world to capture all sorts of fish, in hopes of catching the precious fish. So let's go from there to the book of Matthew. (24) and verse 31. It says, and he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, right? Going to show you that the elect is scattered around the earth. That's what those four winds represent, the four corners of the earth, right? The elect is scattered worldwide. But, you don't have to physically go around the world in search of the elect. All you have to do, once again, is upload a video, and put it on the internet. And if the Spirit, wills, if the Lord will, somebody that's a part of the elect will run across it and be edified, right, and be sealed that way, and we don't have to focus on these different places around the world, because that's not the focal point. The focal point is America, because that's where the bulk of the Israelites are, is America, you see? And that's also the place where the Lord's judgment is going to rain upon heavily, America. All right, so I hope this lesson was edifying. I want to say, Kal Halal, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha Kudash. Once again, double honors to my teachers, the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom and salutations to the elect.